What is up? What's up, lowriders? It is good.
What's
It's good.
up?
Oh man, today is going to be a busy day. I know most of these people are just coming to warm up their comment fingers for the Q&A.
Warm up your comment fingers. I know,
You,
and I
you got
I
to get
was
your knuckle calisthenics.
exactly. I told Doc, I was like, "We have 30 minutes today. This is the mailing it in episode. We are gonna go quick today, but that's all right. We'll make sure that we still answer everyone's questions. And this should be a pretty direct episode. I feel like most people, at least in the live chat, are a lot of this anyway, but just to cover it so we can check it off.
Yeah. Um, I think it's a combination of just giving more like direct answers to some common questions. I
Yeah,
think a lot of things are understood maybe conceptually or understood, but then hear various things back and forth. So this way we
yeah,
can speak from a particular way. Maybe at some point in time we'll need to do what are the disadvantages, right? And then people will
yeah,
understand and then
yeah.
make better.
Yeah, we should do like a advantages and disadvantages. We could also do advantages of audio only as well. I'm sure that I think there are different sides of this coin in this conversation for sure.
Yes, there you go. Okay. So Um, yeah, before we get in, just want a quick reminder to everyone. If you haven't already done so, please step over to the old iTunes Music, aka Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes Podcast, whatever you want to call it. Go over there and leave a review if you like it. Of course, share it with folks who need to see this, people who are thinking about starting a video podcast. If you go all the way back to the beginning, this is episode 41, which is kind of crazy.
This is 41, and 40 was incredible. So if you did not hang out last week, I wasn't here, and Doc and Luis delivered. So definitely go back and rewatch that one.
Yeah,
The
it was fun.
replay and audio just dropped today, so definitely share and pass that one along because I think whether or not people are into podcasting or live streaming or video production or interviews, any like all that information from last episode was highly relevant, across the board. So yeah, definitely a good one.
So, just yeah, leave that, and then a quick reminder: if just today, if you're on Captivate and you've been looking at a way to say "quote unquote" monetize your podcast,
Yeah.
Captivate has just added membership today. As a matter of fact, Mark was talking about it this morning on his live stream. He's the CEO of Captivate, so Captivate people, make sure you're checking your mailbox and seeing whatever the new documentation that came out. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool. So.
non-captivate people become captivate people. So
Right? Just so simple. It make your job so much easier. So
yeah.
yeah, you can do it memberships, you can do tips, and you can do sponsorships from the new stuff they rolled out today. So super interesting.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again because it was what was on in the bathroom at 5 a.m. when I'm rummaging around trying to get ready to do this. So-
Doc popped into the stream, and I was like, "Hey, is that Mark in the back? What is in the background there?" Awesome, awesome.
uh, okay, so yeah, let's get started. We'll do the countdown, and then right after the countdown, we'll go ahead and kick off the show. After the show, hopefully, we'll have some time to do a Q&A, and then we'll get ready for the Q&A. Well,
The
okay.
Q&A,
Anyway,
yeah.
you know what I mean. Wow,
Oh, I
Paul,
love
why
the
are
big
you
no,
yelling?
Luis, you should
Right?
leave it gigantic. That's amazing. Your question
Stop
needs to look
yelling,
like
Paul. Oh my God. Uh, hmm,
this.
hold on.
Uh-oh, Doc's distracted. Well, while Doc's distracted, I'm just gonna say
Okay.
hey to all of our friends. Hi to Paul and Milton and Desiree. Gretchen's in the house and David and Dave. I see Luis hanging out backstage and Janice. I love it. So yeah, thanks for hanging out. We're doing a faster episode today, so apologies upfront if you're in it for the full hour. We're only going to be on for about half an hour today, but we are going to
Man,
take questions. So throw a Q colon in front of those, and we'll get to all of them. If we don't get them to today, you can always find it. You know where to find us, but you can certainly find us in the
yeah.
community, Discord, email, anything in between, and we're happy to answer anything
You know what was
afterwards.
really cool is last week Tuesday, actually, I got to hang out with Janice. We went to dinner and she's
Awesome!
hilarious. She's absolutely freaking hilarious. We had
I
fun.
love
It
I
was
love
a
the
blast.
IRL stuff. That's always so fun.
Yeah, and I made her eat raw fish and she took it like a champ.
Yes. Eating raw fish is the best. I love it.
Right?
All
It's
right,
so
let's find
good.
out.
I know people be scared, but I'm like, that's because y'all are Americanized. When you taste it, you'll be like, oh my God. So
It's
yeah, my
good.
one of my friends, I'm sure they have them in Boston, but Roy Yamaguchi and his wife are good friends of mine. So I was like, let's take them to go to Roy's. All right, gang, let's get started. We're gonna do the countdown real quick. Let's count it down. Breathe it out. All right, let's go. Counting down in 5, 4. Aloha, Flow Riders, and welcome to another edition of The Flow. I am your community manager from Ecamm, Doc Rock, along with my awesome co host.
Hey everyone, I'm Katie.
It says, hey, everyone. I thought it was going to Katie Fawkes. Okay, see, when you salutate differently, it throws me off because it just makes me laugh.
Every
Anyway,
time, keeping you on your toes.
we're going to do something cool today. We're going to talk about why or what are the advantages. I shouldn't say why because why is very pointed. We're going to do what are the advantages of doing a video podcast. And this is really good because I was just listening to the new product release from Captivate. And of course, people ask that question of them because they don't directly have a video podcast link. So a lot of the hosters don't. But
Yep.
now with YouTube, you don't necessarily have to have them tied into one thing. It's very easy to do. And
Yeah.
yeah, Mark had an amazing answer, and I kind of agree with his answer. So we're
What was
talking
his
about that.
answer? We should start right there. What did
Uh,
Mark have to say? Because
so
I think that's a good starting place.
he said, and this is a very good answer. It's different from my answer, but it's a good answer. Um, if you have the time, do so. If you
Mm,
don't worry
don't.
about it just yet.
Yep.
Just stick to doing your audio podcast because it's better that you have something instead of nothing. And
Oh,
I
that's a good one. I think that's
I agree with
actually yeah, I completely agree with it. And B, I think it's similar to what my answer would be to that question as well. I think that's a good perspective. I
but
think
here's
it
why it
means
doesn't match us.
yes, go for it.
Okay, so here's why it doesn't match us. Because we make the thing that makes it easy for a chimpanzee to do a video podcast and save time, not need
Yeah.
more time. I
Yeah.
think the common, and this is true for general people using the other tools, video would take them longer. And so I
Yes.
understand why he has that perspective. I don't want to say he's wrong because he's right.
He's not.
It's
Yeah.
just like it's like someone says, Doc, can you carry 17 4x8 sheets of plywood? My answer is yes. Why? I have a pickup truck,
Yep.
right? If you have a Corolla, the answer is no. I got to go rent a truck and then go to the Home Depot, which you can rent trucks from Home Depot, but it's going to take me a little bit longer. So to them, yes, it is more work. It's going to take them longer. Me, I just back up to the Home Depot. Hey, Kavika, throw the wood in the back, cuz throw the wood in the back, and I just take it to where I got to take it. So we have a pickup truck. We have a tool that will actually make doing a video podcast easier. So his perspective is solid right for most folks, but we're Ecamm.
Yeah. I think it's an important thing. And I think too, a lot of it comes down to perspective, right? So in this episode, we're talking about what are the advantages to video podcasting, right? Like, there are a number of benefits and reasons why you should be considering video podcasting. But I think what you just said is a really important thing to keep in mind as well. Like, if we in this episode sell you on the idea of jumping into video podcasting, you need to be thinking through what is the easiest and most professional and the way that you want to be able to accomplish that, right? And so yeah, like if you're approaching it from I already have an audio podcast and my audio only podcast is working really well and I want to add video on and you're thinking through, all of the ways to do that and it feels like double the work, then yeah, that is a very different that's a very different perspective from I'm starting a podcast for the first time and I'm going to start with video. It's also a really different perspective from I'm starting and adding video in and I'm using Zoom or I'm
Yes.
using,
Yeah.
Riverside or I'm using all these other different tools. The tools are going to make the process different. So yeah, I think you really need to know why you want to add video in. and whether or not you're adding it into an existing workflow and need to make edits there, or you're starting with a video first workflow. So, all of those things are really important. So
Yeah.
we'll dive in
If
this
you
one
have to
into just
go
why
if
video
you
in
have to go
general.
get stuff, no,
Yeah,
this is true story though. If you have to go get
yeah,
stuff and then buy something new and figure out, yeah, you're in a whole different perspective. So
yeah,
I think we do make it easier. I think one of the first advantages is always going to be audience engagement. I believe that compliments of with videos are just generally more engaging than audio by itself in the first place. They add a
yeah.
visual element, it helps hold people attention, and we get a live studio audience that we get to interact with. So I think audience engagement is my first answer
Yeah,
or
audience
point.
engagement, and I would say as like an extension on that, if you are going to at any point in your podcast have guests on, you're probably already recording video or thinking about video, because being face to face, quote unquote, with a guest is just providing a better overall conversation and experience for you, for the guest, and for the listeners on the other end. So, I think there's just something about video and about being able to have conversations and see people's um, you know, cues and reactions and what that experience is like for people, that just makes it a better quality podcast in the end. So, yeah, I think having that video side of it is probably something that people are already thinking about anyway, if they're adding in guests or if they're, for the kind of experience that they're trying to create.
Yep. And that engagement with the guests is better, of course, as we always talk about.
Yeah.
I think the second key element is that it expands your reach. Video podcasting just automatically helps you reach different audiences because there's different people looking for it in different places. And there's the audience that generally just prefer video over audio because they have been coached by people to believe that they're visual. There's no such thing. Um, it
Find the visual learners.
It
Yep.
it's super funny. Me and Callie, um, Collie rather switched to two Callies. They're different. Me and Collie fight about this all the time, and she swears she's a visual learner, but that has been so debunked. It's super funny. Anyway, it also allows you to leverage platforms like YouTube, which we do, and we all know that YouTube is the second largest search engine. So, like, it is just genuinely better in finding new people. Are constantly scrubbing YouTube. And I don't know about you, and I'm curious for the people in the live studio audience, how many random videos that you were not searching for do you watch in a day or in a week? Like, for me, Sunday is where I'm really studying YouTube, right? And I'm normally there looking for something to relax to, not necessarily do any tutorials, whatever. This sort of kickback mode. The amount of random things that I watch that have nothing to do. So I saw one yesterday. I gotta send to you to show to Dane. A guy took the motors out of a Dyson and built a plane, thinking that they wouldn't work.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just
I
leave. I'm gonna leave the
definitely
premise at
said definitely
that.
said that one along. I would love to watch that one too.
It was
It's funny,
engineering nerd heaven.
I don't do that intentionally, because I feel like I spend a lot of time during the work week, like on YouTube, watching videos, creating videos, engaging, like doing kind of all of the YouTube stuff. But I will say that what you just said, I saw like a really great video that I wanted to send to you for Dane. That happens to me a lot. And I spend a lot of my time on the weekend, um, either getting videos that are sent to me or clips that are sent to me that allows me to discover someone new or a channel that I want to check out or a project I want to work on. Or I'm in the act of what I'm doing during the work week, have stumbled across, different creators and different shows and different, podcasts and all of that content that then I am sending along to other people. So I feel like video, and maybe this is my own perspective, but I feel like video is, especially any like shorter clips, so how you're repurposing your video podcast, makes it significantly more shareable than I think an audio only podcast is. Like, I am much more likely to send video clips, TikTok clips, Instagram reels, YouTube shorts, to a specific timestamp in a YouTube video to friends and family and colleagues than I am to say, oh, I heard this amazing thing in a podcast. I'll say that, but they're less likely to actually go in and listen to that than they might be to check out a video clip or I'm like running up and like, look at this on my phone, like showing
Yeah,
them the
that
photo.
happens all the time. Oh, no, wait, I just gotta double check again. Do you really think you don't watch random videos? Not that you seek them out, that they just happen to pop
Oh,
into
no,
your
no,
feed and you click it.
I definitely
Yeah, that's
watch
what I mean.
random
I don't
videos.
mean necessarily I don't start out to do it to go find random clips. I start out to watch videos about something to do with Japan or watching cooking stuff with Baba, and then something random pops up, and then I'll watch it, and I'll be like, "Oh my goodness," you know? So, yeah, no, I don't think I seek them out. I think they just happen. And so, Gretchen says she probably watches about 10. So, yeah, it's super funny, but I think a lot of people just run into lots of videos random. We found the cat dancing videos or the weird stuff back in the day when that's all YouTube had. We most of us found them randomly. So I'll cover what Katie said again, and we could dig deeper if necessary. Katie mentioned content flexibility, that repurposing content, repurposing
Repurposing, yeah.
content. Oh, the script, we just broke that. Anyway, that concept of being able to take those clips and share them in various manners, especially on other sites that your discovery channels, as I mentioned often in my talk, that is so big. And I think a lot of people who are hemming and hawing about having to make a video podcast are the exact same people that come into any talk of podcasting and say, how do I expand my audience? How do I get more listeners? uh,
Yeah. I I honestly think that that is the number one advantage is
uh,
reach, and then as an extension off of reach are all of the kind of other sub advantages. Like you said, I think like engagement, eye contact, being able to work, just create better content. And then the reality of all of this, which we've mentioned a number of times, but is worth reiterating, is that video is the hardest, most time consuming, most, challenging, get inside your head, don't really want to do it sometimes thing. So if you're starting with that and you're creating a process to make that the easiest point, everything else along the way is just faster and easier and more repeatable and and more consumable and more shareable because you're knocking off the hardest thing to do up front. And if you can get yourself into
yes.
that mindset, it's so much easier. I was talking about another show that we do for Ecamm that I do called Meet the Ecamm Fam, and it's just an interview show. It's bringing on Ecamm customers and talking about like how they do what they do. But it's been funny lately how many kind of offshoot video projects we've been thinking that can kind of sit under that brand. It's like, oh, we can do, behind the scenes tours of, some of the studio spaces and have that kind of, like tour in Ecamm fam space. Or we were talking with Tatiana and with Val earlier today about the idea of doing like common streamer mistake. So it's like, like meet the Ecamm fam mistakes. Like, but all of that is really doable under kind of the show brand because it's given me the flexibility under that video to be able to say like, okay, like maybe this isn't like one of the regular episodes that I do. It's like a special episode, but being able to do that in the video format makes that just so much easier for me to do that as like a short video clip. I can pull the audio out of that, but if I was only in the audio space, I would just be limited by what I'm able to do and the audiences that I'm able to reach. So that's a really
Yep.
long-winded way of just being like, if you start with a video, then you
Yep.
automatically have the most reach and you automatically have the most amount of flexibility and you've done the hardest thing first. So everything
You
else should be
know,
easy.
you say I give you a real simple way, and most people may not realize this, but if you start in culinary practice, you start with soups and stocks. Why? Because with
Base.
soups
Yeah.
and stocks, you can make everything,
You
right?
can make
Once
everything.
you
Yep.
have stock in your freezer or whatever, stocked up for the winter, probably where the name came from.
Probably where the name came from, yeah.
um, that stock can be used to make all kind of myriad things, including even something as simple as cornbread. You're like, oh, I wouldn't put chicken stock in cornbread. That's why your cornbread don't taste good as my grandma's, because she would throw chicken stock in there sometime and then add all the other stuff. And it had like a little bit of depth or richness. So her like rosemary chicken, cheese, cornbread was like, man, come on. Let me stop. Let me stop.
Well,
I'm
now
just
I'm
saying.
starving as
Right?
usual.
Soups and stocks is big. The other one is, I was thinking in that same thing was the reason why you start with a bechamel sauce, because when you learn how to do bechamel or a basic tomato, you can make all myriad other types of sauces as well, right? So same thing.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about monetization opportunities.
Yep.
Platforms like YouTube definitely offer you a chance to make money off of it that way. Because you're doing it live, you can also do things like super chats or donations during the stream, and they also make it easy now once you hit a certain level in your platform to have memberships around that, and to put a shelf when you're looking at your show. Let me check this episode for us. Do we have the shelf show up yet? Um, I think I have my format rearranged on my screen. I don't really see it, but there is a shelf when you're watching videos on YouTube of
Yep.
Ecamm. There's a shelf with Ecamm products right there on
I
the
know,
shelf.
because I was thinking that this morning that I need to go in and add our new Flow Rider T-shirt to the to the shelf. I haven't yet done that, but yeah, no, and it's really like it's really seamless and easy. So that is an easier. I think again, that's an easier approach to have it all centralized in the space that has the most amount of impact versus trying to say to someone, hey, podcast listeners, we just started our Patreon. It's like it's over here on this separate link. Here are the different benefits that a Patreon is going to get. If you have everything that's all integrated in one space, it's just easier for everyone to be able to consume and to be part of it and to be giving you money, which is the point of your monetization, I would assume. So yeah, it's not that I guess I would say it's not that anything on the audio only side is wrong or bad. It really just comes down to what you're trying to accomplish with it. So, if I guess really if at any point you want to be creating video, we would encourage you to just start with video and go all in. If you don't, if it's just not something that you're going to do, or you're doing it like really like on a kind of you're doing very sparsely, like you're only doing it for behind the scenes of your podcast, or you're doing it as like special pop-up events, then great. Like there's nothing wrong with taking a audio only approach. It's just a matter of thinking through what the goals of your podcast are, what you're trying to get out of it, and if reach is really important to you, and if being able to grow and have multiple audiences and multiple monetization opportunities, then you really should be strongly making a pros and cons list and considering whether or not video is a good approach for you. And if it is, go all in and set yourself up for success, because again, you need more tools and you need different platforms to be able to bring video in. So you might as well start with that as being your most important thing, and then pull everything down from there, versus trying to go the other way. It can often be difficult to think through, especially if you have a really well established audio only podcast.
Yeah. Well, this is a really good comment from the chat. Big Rich is saying the
Hey,
hardest part
Rich.
of video podcasting is showing things on camera and not talking about them. It makes the audio version weird, and I
Yep.
completely agree with that. But what's funny to me is I've been saying that for a while, but then I realized that I have listened to something like Mac Power Users for going on 15 years, and it's all about Mac software, and they've never had a video podcast. And they're talking about, or even Day One. I listened to the Day One podcast for years. And back in the day when Phil had the Evernote podcast, I listened to the Evernote podcast for years. And people would come in and talk about their Evernote flow and their lists and how they build checklists and, how they're organizing their content. And it was all just done explaining because there was definitely no video. So I can see how it's weird, but I think, and I'm sure Rich already knows this, if you make a really uh, pointed effort to remind people, if you happen to be listening to this on the audio version, hey, this is where you would notice. Open the preferences. It's in the third tab, down here, here, here. I
Yeah, you
think
need to be
that's the
intentional
thing.
with what you're
Yeah,
saying. Like
but it is
Luis and I
very
were
easy to
talking about that
forget.
earlier.
It is
Yeah, we were talking
100% easy to forget.
exactly. We were talking before we jumped on in kind of the tech check about last week's episode, right? So we did a really you and Luis did a really like technical, I guess, episode where it was a lot of like you had live demo mode open and there were a lot of different windows. And Luis was saying that, in a couple of times there were times where you and he were walking through things and it was like, check out this window or that window, which wouldn't work for a listening audience. But in post, Luis was able to just, make those edits, thinking through that we have a listener audience as well as a viewer audience and be able to make those cuts. And because both of you were thinking about both of those audiences while you were doing that episode, there were only a couple of times where it was like, this or that, or, things that wouldn't be relevant. And it was easy-ish to be able to do that editing work in post production and still have an episode that, is relevant enough. And obviously for anyone that has that software that is being able to look through can follow along. So it's not like I think it's just some level of intentionality going in. It may not always be perfect. You may have episodes that definitely make more sense from a video standpoint, but I think that's okay as long as
Mhm.
as long as you're being upfront with that and as long as your audiences know where to find things. So like your listener audience can say like, "Oh, okay, like I was listening to this, it piqued my interest enough that I want to go and watch the video to dive deeper into this." Or this wasn't an episode that really, was relevant to me, and so I'm just gonna go to the next audio episode.
And I
Like, I
think
think
that's
that's
key.
fine,
You
right?
have to
Yeah,
be willing to understand that not every episode is gonna be good for everyone. Now, I personally, I wouldn't have edited it out. I would have left it in there and I would have done the Gary Vaynerchuk maneuver, which he does all the time in his audio books, because by the time he gets to record the audio books, it's normally about 2 months after the actual book has been sent to the press, right?
yeah,
And so he comes up with ideas that aren't in the book. And he'll be reading the book and then he'll stop and be like, okay, listen, I'm sorry for the people that had this on paper, but since you guys got the audio book version, here's something else I wanted to add to this topic. I wanted to make sure it's a little bit more clear, and he'll make adjustments, right? And
mhm,
so in that same vein, I would be like, listen, okay, as you know, you're listening to this on the audio. We're showing some of these examples on the videos. Please remember to check the description of this podcast. It has a link to the video. I highly suggest you watch the video. So you
yep,
create a FOMO and you just insert that a couple times in as you're talking. Even if you forgot to do it live, do that in post. You just stop and say, look, we're going to talk about a section that is very hands-on and we were doing stuff in the video. And I know you're listening to audio, so you can skip to the next chapter, or I highly suggest you go check out the video because it will make a lot more sense with the
yeah,
visual built in. So I think you can use it as a way of creating a temporary side FOMO type thing. It's like in a book where they tell you to reference the index in the back.
yeah, exactly. Yep,
Same smell. Okay, so then last one I wanted to put out there is, just generally SEO benefits, right? A lot of people struggle with SEO because we've all been taught back in the day how to stuff keywords and all this other weird stuff that's completely
yeah,
bad now.
don't do that.
And the best thing for SEO is natural language, and video really does help you generate natural language. And if you happen to be attacking it from two different, formats, you have twice the SEO content,
Mhm,
and SREP, sorry, search engines results page means when you go to type in what's the best ham and manchego in Amesbury, Mass, you're going to get maps right now. Probably I should do that. You'll get maps right now because there's no video. But if the next time we're there for camp, if Luis and I made a video about the bakehouse ham and manchegos or just bakehouse sandwiches in general, we
yeah,
would outperform the actual restaurant because they don't have any videos about their awesome sandwiches.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's just and I think it really comes down to, again, a level of intentionality and understanding what the goals of your podcast are, and then creating really effective and efficient workflows, which is literally the whole point of the show. So hopefully over the last, we're now on episode 41 today. So over the last 40 weeks of listening to this show and watching this show, you understand that as we've worked through, various workflows for this show and for video podcasting in general, the easier you can make it on yourself and the more you will be able to produce and the more people you will be able to reach and then you'll have a great, database filled with video content that you'll be able to use a number of different ways in different formats, right? So now it's easy to say, okay, now I can go back through past episodes. I know we did one with Sarah talking all about podcast SEO, right? Like we could pull clips of that out. We could put that into a blog post, into a guide. We could do a lot with it. Now that we have this whole space set up for video podcasting, it's easier then to record video notes. It's easier to send, video memos back and forth with each other. So once you've made the investment and you understand how to use all of the tech and what the benefits are, you can use it for beyond just your podcast. You can use it to improve your video meetings. You can use it to communicate better with each other. You can use it for like Dungeons and Dragons night with friends that you're doing in Zoom. Like all the different ways that you can leverage video to save yourself a ton of time. It does make a difference. You just need to be really clever about it. So if it is something you want to do, it's really about
Dive
thinking
in.
through, how you can make it as easy on yourself as possible and be able to use it in all these different ways. You don't want to spend thousands of dollars on a camera and then, only use it for your podcast. You want to be able to use it in all these different places.
I thought for sure you can say you can use it for Beyonce. That's where I had my head ready and and changed directions. Okay, so I looked it up and I don't know why, but Google is telling me to go to the barking dog to get a ham and manchego, and that's not the answer. See, Luis, we can own that SEO around the
Yeah, you know
America's
what? That
sandwiches.
restaurant that restaurant is
Barking,
actually
huh?
it's a good one. It's a good restaurant. It's owned there's, like, a couple of restaurateurs here in Amesbury who own, like, multiple restaurants, so that one is owned by
Ah,
the same person that owns Blue Moon and
yeah.
used to own the Ale House and owns another one in, Haverhill, so yeah,
For people
he's
that
spending
are
more time in
listening on the
SEO.
home game, when you come to camp, the sign is gonna say Haverhill, but it's Haverhill. Just get used to
Haverhill.
it.
I'll send
Okay.
there's an amazing TikTok video of a guy pronouncing, Massachusetts towns. So, see there? Video works way better in video for
See, it
that.
works way better, right? Now, it's funny because for people when you're there, a barking dog is good. Luis and Ken and at least Luis, Ken, and I went a couple times. It's amazing. Oh, with Austin too, but yeah, it's not the same. This is cool. Let's check the Q&A section real quick while we're doing this weekend food in Amesbury. We're just trying to get people ready for camp. Do
Yeah,
we have any
yeah.
cues? Drop some
Just a reminder,
A's.
while you're looking for cues so that you can throw some A's at them, just a reminder for everyone listening and watching that if you are part of the Ecamm fam and you are an Ecamm user, and even if you're not, you're more than welcome to join us. We are doing our first ever in-person event called Creator Camp. It is happening in October, mid-October, here in Amesbury, Massachusetts. We will help you pronounce Massachusetts names. We will teach you about all things video and production and audio and Ecamm and webinars and meeting presentations and graphic design. We're doing headshots. Our co-founders are going to do an open like feature roundtable discussion. So if you have feature ideas that you're just so excited to share, they will be here to answer all of those. We're going to have a bunch of fun parties. There's a ghost tour in Salem, Massachusetts. So it's going to be just a lot of fun. And we hope that you'll be able to make it. And you can swing over to ecamm.tv/creator camp to be able to learn more and secure your tickets. We only 100 people are coming and we're nearing that number real quick. So if you haven't yet jumped in, jump in. We'd love to see you.
Oh, it's so good. Yesterday, I was doing a tech check for Libsyn, right? And
Mhm.
Elsie is just amazing anyway. But it turns out that Brian, one of her Luis, he he is into the ghost trips, and he's a filmmaker, right? So him and the wife, they came out and they did the Salem one. So I'm like, oh, you should come. Like you should come and hang
Yeah.
out with us. It'll be fun. Like, yeah, so super good. I can't wait. I can't wait to go.
All
Uh,
right, Luis,
m
we're there. Time to roll the credits.
let's roll the credit. Milton did ask if it was gonna be streamed. No, that's why we call it FOMO, so you can come.
Yeah, no, I know we're a live streaming company, but no, we are not going to live stream this event. You are either here or you're not. We do a virtual event every year called Leap Into Live. So we do have a virtual side for people that aren't able to get to this one, but this one's
Yeah,
really
camp
hands-on.
is
It's
about
meant to be.
hands-on, so
Yep.
you can't really stream it. There you
Yeah. Sorry.
go. FOMO created.
Well,
All
just
right.
like that, you've missed the end of this show, but that's okay. You can catch it anytime you want. flow.ecam.com. I'll let you continue, Doc. Go ahead.
No, that's good. I was like, Katie got this down pat. You guys see, this is where this practice comes in. Katie used to be scared to do this part, and now she just does it automatically. But yeah, you can find us at flow.ecam.com. It will take you to wherever your podcast getting this guide, and then you can just, subscribe. That is the RSS feed and the whole 9 yards. And this particular episode is brought to you by Descript, or you can call it Descript, or you can call it Descript. They don't really care. They just want you to use it because it is hands down amazing. Basically takes your audio and transcribes it into a document. And if you can edit a document, you can edit your podcast. Makes it easy to add B-roll, add other clips, supporting clips. It even makes it easy to chop it up into segments that you can use to share on your social platforms. It is quite amazing. And that's it. That's it.
And join us next week. We have a special guest coming on to talk all about workflows. So if what we said was relevant today and you're like, I would like to have better workflows, we've got you. Next week, we'll be joined by a special guest, and it's going to be a great episode all about how to make those workflows much more efficient and effective.
We nailed it. We did it. There was no Q's
Nailed
to
it.
A. We killed it.
Well, we will catch all of you still hanging out with us in the live chat on our monthly Q&A with Ken and Glenn. It is happening from this space, so I'm going to get out of the way so we can set up 2 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. We'd love to answer all your questions. And hang on, let me grab. And oh no, it's too far away. It's too far away. But we are also awarding our Ecamm Gold Mug Club winners. 3 of them win a mug today. It could be you. Make sure you join us to find out who they are. Otherwise, keep an eye on your inbox, and we will send the winners an email as well.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner, as they say. Thank you. It's a wrap. Thanks, Luigi.
Bye, everyone.